Hi, everybody. It's Patricia Coughlin. I've been away on vacation and have come back refreshed. I've been thinking about the repetition compulsion and wanted to talk to you about that today. This phenomenon in which a patient repeats over and over again the same dysfunctional pattern in their life has perplexed therapists as long as we've been at this business. And in fact, Freud wrote a really pivotal paper on this phenomenon called Remembering, Repeating, and Working Through. Initially, he was using hypnosis to bypass the ego and to facilitate catharsis and a remembering of what had been repressed. But then he noticed this phenomenon of the return of the repressed. And he realized that you just can't bypass the ego, right? There's going to be no lasting result unless you strengthen the ego so that the conscious part of the person's mind can face, tolerate, experience, and integrate all of their complex mixed feelings and wishes and so on. So what did he discover were some of the mechanisms driving this repetition compulsion? Well, the first one, which is just as important for us as therapists as it is for patients, is the tendency to repeat instead of remember. We see this in history all the time. And again, we're in danger, right, in our own profession of forgetting again that catharsis, right, has no lasting value, and that just trying to get to it impulses without focusing on strengthening the ego is not going to lead to any long-term result. So again, what drives it? Number one is that tendency to unconsciously, automatically repeat instead of remember. And this is especially likely to occur in the transference, this kind of repetition and enactment of conflicts that have been suppressed. So it's of exceptional importance that the therapist be able to pick this up and not to repeat in tandem with the patient, but to facilitate the experiencing and remembering of what has been repressed and forgotten. So that really is the primary thing. In trying to account for this, Freud initially came up with the notion of the death instinct because, he saw this destructiveness. He thought, well, there's a life force and there must be a death instinct also that's responsible for this destructiveness. But that never really caught on. And so these other notions really that are associated with an attempt to master. So by repeating, the patient is expressing in some way, trying to bring to the therapist what has been forgotten so that it can be brought to consciousness and mastered, right? So that drive toward mastery and integration is also involved in the repetition compulsion. The other two factors that he identified were the process of identification. And this is a process in which the patient, instead of remembering and experiencing all of their intense mixed feelings toward a loved one who's been lost, they identify with this person and treat themselves as they were treated, or seek revenge, in a sense, on the part of themselves that is identified with the lost object. And then finally, this repetition compulsion can be driven by an unconscious need to suffer and to stay sick and troubled due to guilt over their own destructive, violent impulses. So we've got these four possibilities, really almost five, right? Repeating instead of remembering, but also in an attempt to remember and then master, right, what had been experienced as overwhelming and in the past and had to be repressed. Identification, this need to suffer due to guilt. So I hope this is helpful to you. It's really important when you're in this process of working through, if you've done some of this work and the repetition continues, then there are some other factors involved that have to be brought to bear. So I hope this is helpful to you, and I look forward to your feedback. Bye-bye.